Hello everyone, I'm the Catholic Bible Geek. Welcome back to the channel. I do have a couple of announcements to make first, so if you just want the content of this video, I'll pin a comment down below that says, the content of this video starts at whatever it's going to be, 5 minutes or something. So just do that. But a couple of announcements first. If you are waiting for the next installment, this week's installment of the Bible Survey Through the Bible stream, that is coming. I'm keeping those weekly, but occasionally a week happens like this week where the prep time with my own work and whatnot just gets out of hand. So that's going to be on Saturday night. Unfortunately, I don't like to do it that late, but some weeks it'll just have to come to that. So that's still happening. I also wanted to thank the people who have very kindly, out of the kindness of their hearts and hopefully spirit-led, have donated to my channel. I did open up a PayPal link, a donation link, as I mentioned in one of the previous streams, that I'm spending more time on this channel now. I really feel called to do that because it's a ministry. And that means less time on some of my other channels that are my one other channel that is monetized and could be making some, residuals and whatnot. And I, rely on it a little bit as a residual, or as a supplemental income here and there. But I'm just kind of stepping out and trying this because I think this is an important ministry. People seem to be responding to it. So I do thank those people who've donated. That's huge thanks. I really appreciate that. It's been a wonderful answer to prayer even. And I will like to start acknowledging those folks and running, names across the screen or something like that, but I also wanted to get their permission and I haven't heard back yet. So, donating to ministry, some people just like to stay anonymous, which is totally fine, but much appreciation, going out to those people. Thank you for that. And if you are interested in donating, I should say I've got the link in the description below as I'm going to put in all of my videos now, but not required, just something for those who feel led to do so. The content of this video, though, the idea came to me the other day when I was having a chat with Sound Engraver. For those who watch the channel, my girlfriend Sound Engraver is a Protestant, so it's a mixed relationship in Catholic language there, but it's not a problem for us. We're both serious, very serious about our faith, very devoted, and she has no problem with some Catholics, or some Protestants rather, have quite an issue with Catholics. And as I say before, it's because of misunderstandings. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video, because I've really come to understand that it's a difference in culture. Even, in America, next door neighbors, one Catholic, one Protestant, the Catholic culture is just so drastically different from the Protestant culture that it's so hard to understand that some of the differences aren't quite as drastic as they might seem. Now, there are differences in doctrine. I'm not going to be one of those people who are just trying to tell you, Catholics and Protestants are the same. You don't have to worry about it. Just go ahead and, everything's the same. No, obviously there are different doctrines. Sound Engraver comes to Mass with me and I go to church with her. And at Mass, she doesn't get up and partake of the Eucharist because that's one of the differences, right? You can't, if you haven't been confirmed into the Catholic Church, you can't get up and partake of the Eucharist, which isn't a snobby thing or snobbery thing. It's really to protect people because the Catholic Church does believe certain things about the Eucharist. The bread and wine does become the body and blood of Christ. And Paul tells us in the Bible, he's very clear that to partake unworthily of the bread and wine is to drink and eat death upon yourself, if I'm remembering the quote correctly, but the paraphrase anyway there. So yeah, we don't want that happening to people. So yeah, that's a difference. And when I go to her church with her, I don't get up and partake of their communion either, because that would, not that they say I can't, but I wouldn't want to make that kind of statement saying that, I'm okay with this being just a symbol, because, it's a difference. So there are real differences between the two faiths, but so many of the differences that people think there are just simply aren't the case. And it comes about because there's a difference in culture. And what I mean about the difference in culture is that if you have two different cultures and they're drastically different, they can share some of the same words, they can share the same language, but they'll mean something drastically different by certain words and certain phrases and language. They'll mean something drastically different by gestures, postures, things like that. Cultures are just different. For example, in America, the United States here, if you just, someone asks you where something is, it's over there. You just point to it, it's over there, or I might be talking to somebody and say, well, you and I and this and that or whatever. That's fine. But in certain European cultures, and I think even some South American cultures, to point at somebody like that, with one or two fingers or whatever, is basically saying, it's the equivalent of the middle finger in United States culture. And that's why if you go to Disney World or places like that frequent a lot of international tourism, they'll make their employees, point with their whole hand or something like that. So that's just an example of something that, somebody who grows up in the United States, never being around anybody of that other culture, would think that's absurd. All I did was point over there to the bathroom door. And no, if you did that to somebody from a different culture, they could think you're giving them an obscene gesture. And it's not absurd. It just comes from two different cultures and two different meanings being attributed to the same gesture in this example, but language as well. So hopefully that didn't lose you too much there, but let me give you the example that brought this thinking about. I had to go to a different parish the other weekend because my schedule just got messed up that weekend. And so in order to make Sunday Mass, I had to go to a later Sunday evening Mass. My parish doesn't have a Sunday evening Mass. So I had to go to a different parish in town. Wonderful parish. Go there occasionally when this kind of thing happens with my schedule. And I was telling Sound Engraver that, it's, I'd like to go to my own parish, but this one's got a really nice building. They have a great little altar to Mary there, and it'd be nice to go and spend some time there. And Sound Engraver, she knows me, she knows Catholicism, so she knows that, we don't worship Mary. But that language did throw her for a second, and she said, altar to Mary? She knew there was more to it. She was asking for me to explain. And I had to realize, oh, okay, hang on. I'm using my Catholicese. I'm speaking in Catholic culture language, so I had to be very specific, But I knew where she was coming from in that moment, and I know where other people are coming from in that moment because I used to be a Protestant, used to be an evangelical Christian, used to be there. So when I would hear Catholics say, we don't worship Mary or the saints, I would say, what are you saying? How can you say that? You kneel in front of statues in their likeness and you pray to them. Wake up. That's worship. I remember saying that. I do. And that seems perfectly logical from somebody who, only really has the knowledge of that sort of Protestant culture. But there's an ethnocentrism, I think, involved in that. And it's not on purpose, just as people learn about other cultures. So the specific language, like I had to tell Sound Engraver there, is, okay, yeah, not altar to Mary, is in, hey, this is where we worship Mary. So I said, what did I say? I said, it's a place that has a visual aid to help us focus our requests to Mary for her prayers. So I had to really, be specific and go all out there. Because that's all it is. I've said before, when a Catholic says I'm praying, when I pray to St. Jude, in that sentence, I mean pray in terms of to request. That's the technical meaning of the word pray. As I've said before, you'll still see that language in like legal language, court language, the defendant prays the court, blah, blah, blah. So when I pray to St. Jude or something, or St. Michael or whatever, I'm asking them to pray for me. That's all it is. Because only God is due worship. Not Mary, not any saint, not anyone. Only God is due worship. And we believe that 100%. At least that's the official teaching of the Catholic Church. Maybe somebody who as with any denomination, everybody has people who are a little heretical or got it a little bit wrong here and there. But the cultures are just so different. The cultures are that different. And especially about things like I mentioned, the Eucharist, for example. I've known some Protestants be very upset attending a Mass. How dare you keep me from going up? Tell me I can't go up and receive communion. If you went to my church, you'd be allowed to receive communion. How dare you tell me I can't receive communion? And again, it's just a matter of the specifics of the belief. If we believe that communion was no more than just symbols, if we believe that bread and wine of the Eucharist was nothing more than a symbol to help us kind of remember Christ's sacrifice, then yeah, it would be crazy for us not to allow Protestants to come up and receive at a Mass. But that's not what we believe. We really, truly do believe that bread and wine, read John 6. We believe what Jesus says, that becomes the body and blood of Christ. And that there's graces imparted. It's a sacrament. And to partake of that unworthily, meaning if you have a sin on your conscience, a mortal sin specifically, then yeah, that's as Paul says, that's no good. You're eating harm and drinking harm upon yourself. And to partake of that and not believe what it's being presented as is also to partake unworthy of it. So these are just some examples, of, and it's so important to understand. I'll kind of wrap it up with this, but it's very important to understand that there are two different cultures, because I come from a family that's still very much just in that Protestant culture. And I try to explain to them, as I've said, if you're like, oh, you Catholics, I've done a video previously, just recently, oh, you think you can pray people into heaven. Oh, no, that's not it. No, we're praying for those who are in purgatory, those who are already saved, which is between them and Christ. We're praying for their time as they finish their regeneration, finish their sanctification, finish their journey into holiness, things like that. And I think if we cleared up a lot of these misconceptions and tried to make the language as specific as possible in terms of translation between the two cultures, it's not that it's suddenly going to make people realize, oh, well, we totally believe the same thing. No, sometimes it will. But no, at the very least, it'll make people realize that, oh, okay, so you're not like, like Mormonism, for example. And I'm not, being insulting or anything like that, but an official belief of the Mormon church is that you can be baptized for the dead. Like, so some people who didn't get to be baptized in real life, well, they'll go and baptize each other and say, this is a baptism for this dead person. That's kind of an out there belief, even for Catholics. So some of the things that Catholics, you might find out a Catholic practice, and Protestants might think, oh, you guys are just nuts. You're just like, you might as well be the Mormons over there baptizing people for the dead or something, and that's not the case. It's not the case. It's just a matter of a difference in culture. So I just wanted to say that, I've kind of talked about these differences ever since I started this channel, and I'll continue to, because I'd really like to build as many bridges as I can and get rid of as many misconceptions as possible, because I think Sound Engraver and I's relationship is a perfect example. Yeah, we still do have some doctrinal differences, but with clear communication, with understanding and really trying to translate, back and forth, we realize that there's nothing important or salvation altering, between us. It's not being unequally yoked in any way, in that manner. And there are other, things. I mean, obviously, if you're going to have two people in a relationship of two denominations, you got to be okay with certain differences, but the important things are there and in common, and very sure about. So anyway, that really wasn't proper syntax, but anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I just wanted to call attention to the fact that there are two different cultures. And if you have a misconception, if you're a Protestant, I know I have a lot of Protestants who watch this channel, and if you think you understand something the Catholics do, but it sounds really, really weird to you, ask a question in the comments sometimes. Maybe it is just something we do that's really different than Protestants, but more often than not, it's probably going to be something that maybe there's just a slight misconception about. Might be still really weird, but might maybe not be quite as weird or blasphemous as you might think, So yeah, that's that. I will be back, like I said, with the Survey the Bible stream on Saturday night. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks to those who are coming out for those, or are watching when I do edit the stream down and put it on the playlist. Seem to be blessing people. That's wonderful. They bless me in terms of preparing them. I've taught these kinds of things before, but it's a new format for me teaching online. So it's really wonderful. It's a lot of fun and edifying, hopefully for a lot more people than just me. So thanks for the support, and until next time, God bless.